Alright, so this is a video response to Zipblock Gory's video about what DC should be doing, other DC comics that they should be doing for the New 52. I came up with a lot of titles, so let's just get into this. Starting with Mr. Majestic. Since Wildstorm is now a part of DC, the Wildstorm character is now part of DC, I really want a Mr. Majestic comic. Now, how I would do a Mr. Majestic comic is just make it about him. How the plot would be is that for those who have been keeping up with Wildcats and everything in the Wildstorm universe, the war between the Carabeams and the Daemonites. And now that we have the Daemonites on Earth, and they're kind of attacking Voodoo and Grifter, and now even in the upcoming issues of Superman, Hellspawn's going to be taking on Superman. So how I would do this for Mr. Majestic is that he's crash landed on Earth, and reason being is because the Carabeams have lost the war with the Daemonites. The Daemonites have won the war, and the Carabeams are either wiped out on their homeworld, or they're being hunted down by the Daemonites across the galaxy. And Mr. Majestic, who is a warlord of the Carabeam race, his ship was being chased by a Daemonite warship, and it gets shot down, and he's the only survivor, and his escape pod crash lands on Earth. When he wakes up, and keep in mind, it's not like with the Kryptonians like Superman and Supergirl, where they come to Earth and their powers awaken. It's, Mr. Majestic always has that power, and his power set is kind of like Superman's. So when he arrives on Earth, I really imagine he'd be very scared and confused. I wouldn't say scared, but very confused. Discovering all these superpowered beings on this planet, and people think he's Superman. I mean, even I would have it like, even Superman thinks he's another Kryptonian. And then he's like, Kryptonians? They've been wiped out for thousands of years. I'm a Carabeam. And I would actually have it like, Majestic is, he's stuck on this planet, and he's not really a hero, but when he discovers there's Daemonites on here, he's like, oh yeah, I'm not doing this for Earth, I'm doing this for the Carabeam race. My people have been nearly wiped out by these monsters. So, I could just imagine how I would do it is just Majestic doing his own thing, kind of like an anti-hero, hunting down and annihilating Daemonites everywhere. And like he was part of the DC universe for a short time. During one of the DC events, he was accidentally pulled from the Wildstorm universe into the DC universe. In there, he caused quite a stir. I mean, he actually took Superman's place, and this is funny. There's actually a scene in the comics when he was part of the DC universe. He actually took Kyle Rayner's ring from him. And keep in mind, at that point, Kyle was infused with the power of Ion. Yeah, he could take on one of a human being possessed by the living embodiment of will. So, yeah. But yeah, I would have Majestic trying to adjust to human life while, realizing that his people are being wiped out left and right. He can't find them. And I would actually have it like he discovers Grifter and Voodoo. I'd even have Zealot in here, like he discovers that there are other Carabeams on here. I'd have Maul and Zealot in here as well. Like they managed to escape. They were on Mr. Majestic's. His real name's Majestros. So I'd have it like they were on his warship, and they got into escape pods as well, but they were on other parts of the world. They crash landed on other parts of the world. I'd also have it like Majestic's not the one for being very solid. He's not very quiet about it. He's very open, and he doesn't care much about damages. But I'd actually have him like a lot of I'd actually have it like Stormwatch comes to him and says, we want you on on our team, and he's like, hell no, I'm not doing that. And just I'd actually have it like even the Justice League wants to have him on their team because they kind of want to they kind of want his help and control him and try to teach him not to cause so much collateral damage. That's just a thought right there. I thought that DC would be all over the idea of putting Mr. Majestic in the New 52, and I really think that idea would be kind of cool, of having him just a man, kind of like Captain America, a man out of time, but with this, it's a man on a different planet. It's a guy on a different planet, a guy who was once a warlord, and now he's kind of stuck with these humans. He's kind of stuck with humans, and he's one of the last of his kind. He's convinced that he may be the last of his kind. Since, like I said, in this universe, I'd have it that the Daemonites won and the Caribbeans are being wiped out. So, yeah. But anyway, let's move on to the next book I think the New 52 should have in their new wave. Oh, before I forget, I want to talk about writers who I think would be perfect for Mr. Majestic. Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning. They're very good with cosmic characters, and they did a lot. And they actually wrote the Mr. Majestic series when he was part of the DC universe, and when he went back to the Wildstorm universe. So, definitely Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning. I think the only book they're doing, I think the only book they're doing, I could be wrong, is the Resurrection Man book. So, I definitely think they're well suited for a Mr. Majestic series. So, yeah, anyway, like I said, moving on. Up next is Captain Marvel. Yes, I know he's getting a backup story in Justice League written by Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, but I would really like a new ongoing series for, Billy Batson. First off, I would give the power of Shazam back to Billy Batson, and, the whole thing with a lot of too many new rogues for the DC characters, I would actually, this is one of the few times I would say to any superhero to get new rogues. Because anyone who, the only, I guess you could say, 3 villains, and even comic book fans could name off of for Captain Marvel would be Black Adam, Dr. Zavanna, and Mr. Mind. The rest of them are incredibly miscellaneous and kind of goofy. So I wouldn't mind new villains for Captain Marvel in the New 52. How I would do it is also, I don't really want a retelling. I really don't want a retelling. I'd actually like a quest for Billy Batson getting the power of Shazam back, because he lost it during the Infinite Crisis, I believe. I think he lost either that or he lost it during the battle during the event where Black Adam went insane. I think I think he lost the power when Black Adam went insane. So I would definitely, go down that route. Captain Marvel, I really don't want a redesign on his costume. I think his costume's very, very well known, and I really don't want a redesign for his costume. But knowing, New 52, his costume would probably be like armor now. This weird armor padding. But, whatever. I can because I know if they do bring in a new Captain Marvel book, the costume will be redesigned, and nothing I can say about that. So, what can you do? But yeah, first and foremost, of course, for Captain Marvel, new rogues. I can't stress that enough. And villains that can go toe-to-toe with Captain Marvel. Because this dude, for some parts, Captain Marvel is kind of maybe stronger than Superman at some points. No matter, it depends on who writes him. I would definitely like new villains, maybe something like, I'd like to see, I'd really like to see, villains that have a mythology to them, new villains that can go toe-to-toe with him, and, mentally, I wouldn't mind that at all. But, let's move on. Damn it, I forgot again to mention writers. In terms of writing, as much as Jeff Johns is writing the backup story, I really don't want to see him on every single book in DC. And even though, as much as Greg Pak is working at Marvel, I've always said that I've really liked to see Greg Pak writing Captain Marvel. But the other pick I would have is, this is a tough one, but I'm totally forgetting it now. But yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I really would like a writer who would really like to dig into the mythos of the power of Shazam. Excuse me. I'd really like someone who could dig into that power and even dig more into the mythos of Shazam itself. So I don't know. Greg Pak, again, he's working at Marvel, but if I could pick anybody, Greg Pak for Captain Marvel. But yeah, he's working at Marvel. So anyway, again, moving on. Alright, so up next is Deadman. Now, Deadman, I think, it's now time for a Deadman ongoing. Now, yes, I know he has a mini-series in DC Comics Presents, but I really think I think a lot of fans are clamoring for an actual Deadman series. I mean, you could do so much with this character. I mean, yeah, we've explained the origin 1,000 times over, but I really think Deadman needs like a new series. How I would do it is kind of like Deadman basically trying to solve all, again, like kind of like how his comics were, where he would go around trying to solve murders and try to serve Ramakrishna, the spirit of the universe. So yeah, that's kind of how I do it. I have a lot of supernatural elements in here. I would actually, like, he used to have a rogues gallery, like all these different spirits, but I think I'd give, Deadman's another character who doesn't have a lot of rogues and small amount at all, but I definitely give him new rogues, another character to give new rogues to. Definitely, like, even, I'd actually give him mortal enemies. I mean, a lot of supernatural enemies as well, but actual people, like, people who hunt ghosts, like people who want to use the Deadman's abilities, take them for themselves. You know, like actual people, actual humans, be an enemy to Deadman and actually have the ability to see him. Because granted, no one can see Deadman unless he possesses somebody. And yeah, I know they kind of bent the rules at some points in Brightest Day, I believe. But yeah, now in terms of writing, that's another a tough one, because Deadman you could go either the adventurous route with Deadman, or you could go the horror route with Deadman. I personally would like to have that. It's a supernatural book, but it doesn't have to, just because it's supernatural doesn't mean it has to be scary. Kind of like Frankenstein and Agent of Shade. It's kind of like that Hellboy feel to it. So, I think Jeff Lemire would be kind of cool on here. If not Jeff Lemire, I would say definitely someone who can have fun with a book. Someone who could, you know, have a lot of, you know, fun with this hero. I mean, you can have supernatural adventures, doesn't necessarily mean it has to be scary. I mean, his Frankenstein Agent of Shade book was supposed to be like, again, like have a Hellboy, not exactly be 100% like Hellboy, but definitely have that fun supernatural feel like Hellboy did. And I mean, does, but it doesn't have to be like his other book, Animal Man. So yeah, Jeff Lemire would be my first pick for a Deadman series. But anyway, next up is Uncle Sam and the Freedom Fighters. Now, yes, I know it's kind of a how I would do this book is set it in the 40s. I'd remake the team and set it in the 40s with the original Ray in there, and kind of have it tie into the new Ray that's being written, that 4-part miniseries. So I'd have it tied like there was another Ray before him, and that's kind of true. But I would have this team set in the 40s. Now, granted, the team, this team you see right here, was in the current time period, but I'd set it back in the past. Like, these guys were the original superheroes, but they worked in covert, under wraps for the government, trying to fight secret Nazi projects. Yeah, I know, typical feel, typical, you know, World War II stuff, but it's how you do it would be kind of interesting. Because sometimes that's a hit-and-miss project right there, that whole covert superhero team fighting Nazis. But I'd also, you know, have them go on to the 50s and move on to the 60s. Like, kind of like, the first story arc would be in the 40s, next story arc would be in the 60s, and then move on to the 70s, and they're like, kind of like the, Secret Avengers, in some way, for the government. The team would also be very, interchangeable. The team would grow old, all except Uncle Sam. I would definitely keep the whole thing about him being the spirit of America, and I'd really like to see his views on how the government changes each time he's summoned to lead the new team of the Freedom Fighters. Yeah, I'd have it like every time a new team is created, he'd be summoned, and just have it like his thoughts on it, and how he'd be leading the new Black Condor, the new Ray, or the new Human Bomb, and the new Doll Man. Yes, there's a hero named Doll Man. But yeah, now the team I'd have on here is I definitely have Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray in here, because they did do a mini-series about the Freedom Fighters, which was actually pretty good, so I definitely like to have Jimmy Palmiotti and Justin Gray on this book, because I really think they'd really be interested in doing another book like this again. But yeah, anyway, up next. is the Specter. Now, Ziploc Gory and Mount Vernon Kidded and a lot of other people have been saying, why isn't Specter part of the new DC universe? How I would have it is there'd be a new Specter. Kristen Freeman has somehow been misplaced, or he's been killed, and the Specter needs a new host. This is another guy who... How do you make rogues for this guy? The guy who's the living embodiment of God's rage. How do you create rogues for that? I definitely have a lot of more powerful demons. Maybe something like that. Renegade. Have him... definitely the Specter would also be like a horror anthology. That's one way to go at it for the Specter. But... Man, this is a tough character to write. I mean, he's so... If you want to talk about Superman being powerful, Superman doesn't even hold a candle to the Specter. So, yeah. I don't know. This is a tough one, but maybe JMS. He's really good at writing very referring to when I say writing very powerful characters, I mean his stuff in Superman Earth 1, not his Superman run. Not his actual run, but the Superman Earth 1 graphic novel, where he had a really good... I think he had a lot of time to write Superman. But, yeah, his Thor run's really good, and I think JMS would be interested in digging deep into the psyche of the Specter, and being, you know, this being of vengeance. The other writer I had in mind was... The other writer I had in mind was Scott Snyder. Scott Snyder, who's now writing Batman and Swamp Thing. I wouldn't mind having Snyder on this book, simply because I think he could really dig into the horror element of this guy. Because Specter, even though he's doing God's will, he goes about it in very creepy and scary ways. And you know, how he takes out people is sometimes pretty scary. Like I've seen this guy melt a guy and turn him into his skin just started to melt and he became a candle. So yeah, definitely dig into that. Or, I'd say even Peter Milligan is another, good choice right there. Hell, I'd even settle for, Specter being a part of the Justice League Dark Group. As long as Specter's such a cool character. But, anyway, moving on. Moving on now to the Question. Now, they're kind of... DC's kind of fickle about not bringing back Vic Sage back. Sad face. It's kind of depressing. But I wouldn't mind a new Question book series based on Renee Montoya. I wouldn't mind an ongoing series about the Question from her perspective. So, she'd be kind of cool. The creative team, I actually have a creative team for this one. Gail Simone on writing and Darwin Cook on artwork. Yeah. Definitely that, or Dustin Nagayan. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. But definitely Gail Simone would be an interesting cast, an interesting pick for this, to do the writing, in my opinion. She's only doing, Batgirl. I heard she's going to be leaving, Fury of the Firestorms very soon and just focus on Batgirl. But I wouldn't mind her being on this book. Just because I really think she could... She's really... I'm not trying to sound sexist, but she is really good with female characters. Again, not trying to sound sexist, but if you've ever read her Birds of Prey run, she's really good at handling female characters. It's yeah, every time she writes Birds of Prey, it's really good how she handles all these characters. So yeah, definitely Renee Montoya. Question. I wouldn't mind that. Again, give her rogues, give her villains. Someone like I don't know, normal villains. I don't want to see a lot of superpowered villains for the Question. Not really at all. Just, you know, regular people. And how about not base her in Gotham City? How about put her in, I don't know, not New York. How about like a different city? Like, I don't know, Tampa, or, you know, hell, I'd go for even a globe-trotting book where her just going around the world solving all these cases, like her going to London, kind of like a mystery detective, like kind of like a Dick Tracy feel to that book. I'd really like that. But yeah, anyway, definitely a question series, which I'm surprised they didn't do to begin with. But yeah, one more book I'd like to see from DC Comics, and that's House of Secrets. Now, the House of Secrets was one of DC's DC's horror book. It was a book that was like was a horror anthology, and it was showcased in Secret 6. So anyway, the House of Secrets. The House of Secrets, how I would do it. How I would like to see House of Secrets in the New 52 is, again, bring out that horror anthology. And I would actually like different writers, an interchangeable... This is the only time I'd say, yeah, different writers on this book, since it's anthology. So one writer can come along and do a horror story, or at least even a one-shot horror story, or maybe just a maximum of 4 parts, and then give it off to someone else. But yeah, I wouldn't have a lot of characters, even though in the House of Secrets comics there was Cain and Abel, not the biblical Cain and Abel, but they were these two brothers who had ties to the House of Secrets. So I'd have them as recurring characters and actually have them, you know, a part of all these horrible events and living in the House of Secrets and trying to discover all the secrets of the house. Funny joke. Not really. But anyway, this is the only one, like I say, this would be a true anthology book. Kind of like how it was before. I would like it part of the DC universe, even though it wasn't really canon, but there were books where, in the Batman Brave and the Bold, Batman went to the House of Secrets, and in the original DC Comics Presents, Superman got trapped in the House of Secrets. But yeah, I wouldn't like a lot of DC characters showing up like a superhero house party. I would like the occasional superhero popping in and being trapped in the House of Secrets. So yeah. Anyway, those are my picks for what the next books DC should put out. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'm out.